So we're going to be doing more than one mock today. Is that right?
Yeah, let's do it up. Let's do one, do another that's different, and see which way we like it. So I'll let you start it off, and if depending on the board, you can change it up. But if you go O-line first, I'm not going to go O-line first. I'm going to go D-line first. That's how we'll do this. Look, we can kind of work together on this as well. It's not just yours versus mine. It's more about one scenario versus another scenario here. So with that said, are you good with the PFF simulator here?
Yeah, let's roll. Let's roll. I like that they always update it. I disagree with a lot of their rankings, but it's pretty spot on as far as just kind of what they create. It's unparalleled. So probably not going to trade a lot, especially if we're doing multiple. And you look at Mimbu went 4, Mason Graham went 5.
This is my nightmare scenario because Mimbu and Mason Graham are the two guys that I think are the best fits for the San Francisco 49ers at pick 11. And it's getting increasingly more likely that neither one is going to get to the 49ers at pick 11. And at this point in time, it's probably more likely that Graham actually gets there than Armand Membo, because I think Membo's really positioned himself as the top offensive tackle in this class. He's the cleanest guy now. Josh Simmons has the red flag. Will Campbell's a guard. He's got the shorter arms, even if they, some teams still might think he's the best offensive lineman. But Membu, with the way he threw down at the combine, he's got the enough length. He can stick at tackle, and it's just a cleaner evaluation for teams. So he's probably going to be the first offensive lineman off the board right now. Although people might be a little overrating the combine, as we do right after the combine.
Right, but he's on every team's board. Mason Graham's on every single team's board. Every team needs O-line, D linemen. Those two guys aren't falling. They're just too clean. They're too clean.
Well, let's keep this going then. I'm guessing there's probably not a trade-up scenario for you here anyway with how the board has fallen here at the top. Abdul Carter, Amar Membo, Mason Graham, Travis Hunter, all off the board. Cam Ward, number 1.
Yeah, this is I like that because I think that's probably one of the most realistic top 5s I've seen. And yeah, if you can't get Graham, I'm not trading up. I don't think I'd trade up for Mimbu. I'd be happy with them at 11. Ooh, Mikael Williams went 10.
Michael went 10. We had Ashton Genty to the Saints at 9. Tyler Warren, tight end, 8. Jihad Campbell is one of the highest I've ever seen him go. He went to the Jets at 7, and Will Campbell goes 6. So this makes the decision a little bit more difficult, I think, because it gets a lot easier if one of those guys falls. None of the common players that gets mocked to the 49ers fell in this mock, but maybe that means someone else is going to be there that you didn't expect to be there. So where does John Chapman go here at pick 11 in this scenario?
Yeah, there's a lot of good players. If you're doing best player available, I think Jahdae Barron needs to be in the conversation, but I don't think that he is. James Pierce Jr., I don't have Mike Green. I don't think the Niners will draft him or Will Johnson for character and injury issues. You keep scrolling down. That means I think the other offensive linemen, my probably top player. Oh, man. See, this is the problem. So, whenever I look at my board, Jahdae Barron's probably the top player on the board, but I can't do it. I just can't do it. Kelvin Banks. Do you look at James Pierce? I have them back to back in my rankings. And so, yeah, I want to see. I'm going to do it. I don't have a choice. You already told everybody the Texas thing. I'm going to go Kelvin Banks Jr. here.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I wouldn't expect you to go any other direction here, John, with this selection, and it makes total sense here. And so we'll see how this goes and plays out. One note on Barron for me is he's a nickel all day, and you can like him a lot, and you can say he's a top 10 player on your board. He's not going that high to me. I just that's the way I think about it. We saw Cooper DeJean. Heck, I don't think Jahdae Barron is good of a prospect as he is, and there's a lot to like. I don't think he's a better prospect than Brian Branch. Brian Branch went pick 45. Nickels don't go high in the NFL draft. Teams still, even though they're more valuable than they used to be, they still don't value him, and they don't take him in the top 20 picks.
So my question is, why do you think he's a nickel only? Where does that come from? Whenever you look at the arm length, it's not great. But, I mean, this dude did win the Jim Thorpe as an outside corner and shut down Jeremiah Smith, and the chances that he did in the big stage.
Yeah, he won the Thorpe Award as an outside corner playing cover 2 zone.
Yeah, that's true.
So, true. I didn't see man-to-man outside. Maybe it's there. I just didn't see enough reps of it, but I just didn't see the evidence of it. And I really liked him inside more. So I just think that's his best spot, is being inside. And I think it's valuable in the NFL. Maybe teams should be taking guys in the top 20, but his length profile and what teams will like him more as in the NFL, it's sort of like the offensive tackle versus guard and center situation. teams value the interior guys less. And I think he's a nickel. I think it's his best spot. I think it's where he'll play awesome in the NFL and to be a great player, should be a first round pick. But those guys tend to fall. If Cooper DeJean goes 40, if Brian Banks goes,
DeJean had the foot issue though.
Yeah.
Like, so, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I just think he's so clean.
So top 10, top 11, top 50, that's too rich. You start getting into the 20s, and I think every team's board is going to look a lot different. And this year more than other. We talked about how we're going to go fast in this, and still we're just jabbering away with your selection made. But I haven't had a chance to talk with you, John, about the draft a lot too. So I'm excited to do this a little bit more often with you as we get closer to.
It's happening. It's happening.
So it is Kelvin Banks, he's the pick, and that makes perfect sense, and I wouldn't expect you to do anything else. So Niners take Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, offensive tackle at pick number 11. Now, if you want me to pause things and take a look at the board, if you want to make a trade or something like that, that's okay too, but really interested to see how the board falls if you go tackle early versus if you maybe went defensive line or another position early.
Yeah, and I think with this draft, like, I'm not giving up a third-round pick to jump up. And so, like, the only types of moves I see is jumping up from like 43 to like 40 or something along those lines. And probably my biggest critique of PFF is you can't see who's on the board when you're not picking. So it's hard to like say.
Know. Yeah. And like, I'm looking at the way this board fell. And for some reason, Luther Burden has fallen on draft boards. I love the tape. I have no doubt in my mind that Kyle Shanahan absolutely will love Luther Burden. If he starts to creep toward round 2, and the Niners are really thinking about trading Brandon Ayuk, I think Luther Burden is kind of a dark horse player the 49ers could trade up for in a Brandon Ayuk fashion.
Yeah, I 100%. I mean, he just fits. Now, what do you do whenever you have both him and Pearsall? How do you allocate those wide receiver where they line up? I don't think either one of them is true X.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's all right. You always draft a year out. So now we're looking at, man, there's some really good fits, just the top 3. Demetrius Knight, he's that thumper linebacker that if you don't bring back Greenlaw is absolutely tone setter type guy. Wide receiver that is a true X, I think. Ellick, the Stanford guy, toasted. Travis Hunter, TJ Sanders, defensive tackle. Like I said, worst in the NFL. I think that defensive tackle room. So TJ Sanders is at the top of my list here. Let's keep scrolling down. Xavier Watts. I love Landon Jackson. Gosh, probably my favorite second round pick at pick 43 is Landon Jackson. I absolutely love that guy. Alfred Collins, you want to get better against the run. No way I'm going back-to-back Longhorns. Can't do that. Princely Umam-Nielen. I like him. The bend is great, but some issues. Some people work ethic, whatever else, character stuff, but whatever. We'll see what happens there. Keep going down. Let's see. What names do you see?
You're not going to draft Alfred Collins?
Texas? I love Alfred Collins.
Defensive tackle?
I love Alfred Collins. We need a defensive tackle. And the problem with Texas is they run such similar schemes, offense and defensively, and Shanahan goes down there for a week every offseason to work with the team, and he played there. Like, there's so many. Plus, they're going to have the second most players drafted this year. What other names?
I mean, we're seeing the board right now, and look, this is the rankings according to PFF, and it might look a little bit different on draft day, but it's just the volume of defensive linemen, whether you get an edge, and maybe there's some one-dimensional guys, maybe they're more of an upfield rusher defensive tackle that's not great against the run, and you start to go one-dimensional maybe on day 2, and especially maybe 4th round, but there's still going to be good defensive linemen, defensive tackles, defensive ends, all different shapes and sizes. There's 0 offensive tackles. They're gone. Like, that's it. If you don't take it at 11, that's your shot, unless you want to try to really roll the dice on someone who's a project sort of a player, like Charles Grant from William and Mary or something like that.
Right. And so I think defensive line's a huge need. You've got rumors out there about cutting, Itir Gross-Matos and possibly Leonard Floyd. So for me, you could talk me out of this. Landon Jackson sitting there, I think it's between him and TJ Sanders. And this defensive tackle draft is so stinking deep that I'm going to wait just a little bit. I don't think the ends are as deep as defensive ends. So I want to go Landon Jackson here. I think he, again, another clean prospect, elite athleticism, size, length that I think fits. If you're going to move on from Leonard Floyd, this is the length and the kind of run pass player that is just universal and can take a lot of snaps. I like Landon Jackson. What are your thoughts on him?
Landon Jackson is interesting to me. I think there's a chance he gets overdrafted, might even sneak into the first round just because he had such a great combine. He is he's a little bit of an odd mover on tape and almost in borderline too tall sort of a category, right? Looks like
there's no change of direction. That's not what he brings. It's
right.
straight line and it's straight up. I mean, that the vertical and all the stuff, the explosiveness. But yeah, if you want a bend guy, I don't think that he's that. So he's the opposite of James Pierce, or actually James Pierce, not even great bend, but he's
like,
the first guy.
If you like Shamar Stewart in the first round, I'd much rather take Landon Jackson in the second round all day because he's got the same problems. And Landon Jackson went kind of crazy at the combine. 6'6", 264, 10-inch hands, 33 and a quarter arms, 4.68 in the 40 at that size. He had a 40 and a half inch vertical, which is kind of crazy too. So, and of course didn't run a 3-cone because I don't think that's where he would shine. But in that, straight ahead explosive stuff, that's where he shines. And so I'd much rather take Landon Jackson and have the same, potential pitfalls with him as Shamar Stewart and take him as high as he's going to have to probably go in the top half of the first round.
And I'll say this too. He has more production in 1 year than Shamar Stewart had in 3.5.
Yeah.
And you're getting him later. And he's just the same. Like, I hate how I love the combine, but they always pick one guy just to go all in on. Like, if you stack their workouts compared to each other, they're almost identical. It's not like, I don't know. Landon Jackson, I feel like he's a better football player and he's just as good an athlete with the same size. Yeah, Landon Jackson II is like a perfect pairing for me.
All right, starting on the edges first before you go inside. And I'm down with that strategy because it's easier to find the interior guys, whether it's defensive or offensive line, in my opinion. So Kelvin Banks Jr., round 1, Landon Jackson going to pick 43 here out of Arkansas, big defensive end in round 2, a couple of third-round picks here. And, I think we'll maybe take it through round 4 or something like that to make sure we have enough time to kind of do a couple of drafts, couple of versions, and then look at it and compare at what that looks like putting together the early rounds of a draft, because the late rounds of the draft, probably doesn't have as big of an impact on what your strategy is going to be after the first, 3-4 rounds.
Right.
So we're to pick 75 now. Got a O lineman, got a D lineman, no interior guys yet on either side. And interesting group of players left here at pick 75. Does anything catch your eye here? Josiah Stewart, undersized edge rusher. You got Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's kid, big athletic tight end out of LSU. Phenomenal workouts there.
Dude, I love this. This is every time I get to the third round, it doesn't matter what mock draft simulator you look at. There's like 15 guys that I'm just like, hell yeah. Like, if I could trade that 11 pick for 3 third rounders, I probably would do it. I know that's not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at just guys, DJ Giddens, Marcus Bowe. I really like Mason Taylor out of LSU. I wouldn't be shocked if he's the best tight end in this draft when it's all said and done. I don't have him ranked as such, but he has that potential. There are just guys on guys on guys. And if we keep scrolling down, like there's just, I love that. This is the sweet spot. Jalen Royals, like, awesome. Savion Williams. Are you kidding me? If you want that Debo guy, and I think he should go in the third, another guy like Shamar that's going to get pushed up because of the combine, whatever. You got Chris Paul Jr., the linebacker that would be perfect, is exactly a 49ers guy. Not seeing a lot of defensive tackles here, Peacock. I thought there would be more. Maybe they have got. Oof.
Oh, we'll keep scrolling. There'll be more. In fact, I can just go straight to the defensive tackles and we can see who's there because, and again, you can maybe even wait to 99, maybe even wait till 112 in round 4 for a defensive tackle. Like, again, there's all different shapes and sizes. Might not have as much juice as pass rusher when you get to that point, but man, the 49ers need to show up the interior run defense as well on defense. And, they might have added someone like Jonathan Allen in free agency before the draft even happens.
I hope that they add something, and I love that. I don't love that people are getting cut, but like the idea of trading for premier players just seems I don't want to do that because you can get every option you want is available in free agency without giving up capital. Yeah, right here. Okay, so D1 Walker, you want to stop the run. CJ West is kind of a do-it-all. Aeneas Peebles, he's your pass rusher. Like, I love so many of these guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to go best player available. I saw 2. when you were scrolling down on best, I saw Harold Fannin Jr., who I absolutely love that player. I think that he could do pretty much whatever you want. And Jared Wilson, the center, I think that he's a perfect scheme fit. Center's a big issue for me. But
Absolutely.
if I'm going best player available, I'm going to bypass Mason Taylor. I'm going Harold Fannin Jr., tight end. And just people talk about he's a move piece and he's smaller and he's not as fast as you want. And I think the third round is probably where he's going to fall to. But if you want somebody that's going to routes, move in space, and just the run blocking energy, he fits exactly what the 49ers do. I like Harold Fannin Jr. probably more than most. I'm going to have a second round grade on him.
Love it. Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end, the move tight end. He's a really interesting prospect because he doesn't move at all on tape like I thought he was going to. I thought he was going to be the little undersized kind of jitterbug guy, but he's like a power player, but small. And it's like his joints are taped together. They don't move right. He just moves differently. Like
He does.
now that I've watched Harold Fannin Jr., it doesn't matter what uniform he's wearing, where he is. He could be at a pickup game. I'd be like, oh, that's Harold Fannin because he moves different than everybody I've ever seen, which could be good or bad depending on the evaluator.
Juwan Jennings is similar, right? Like, dude can't run speed at all, but he gets separation all the time somehow. And he's just that guy. And for the people that say, Fannin, he hadn't played against anybody, you go watch that Penn State game where there's elite athletes all over the field. He's having a damn field day against those guys. So I think that he can compete. He's just, I love him. He's too fun. Oh, Jared Wilson fell. We're at pick 99. The center from Georgia, strong consideration. We still got some defensive tackles. Deion Walker's there. Is there anybody else? I'm not an Isaiah Bond guy. I have to throw that out there for the people that think I'm a Texas homer. I'm staying away from Cam Williams and Isaiah Bond. I do not want to go that route.
At risk of calling you too much of a Texas homer, what about Andrew Makuba? Talk to me about him. Is he potentially a guy that could come in and play free safety, maybe a little nickel, maybe a Jimmy Ward role for the 49ers? Because the Niners still haven't really done a great job of replacing Jimmy Ward.
You look at safeties that have the most snaps as a single high type safety, and you look at safeties that have the lowest QBR when targeted. He's at the top of both of those lists in this draft for everybody. So if the critique of the Niners' current personnel at the safety position is too slow and we have too many strong safeties, Andrew Makuba is he's the solver of that. And he is, I call them rush crush guys, people that fit the character, people that fit the play style, people that don't have red flags on their tape or injury status and are great off the field. Check, 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 check. Like Makuba is clean prospect. And again, you talked about Texas and their zone coverage. And again, he's had with Clemson and with Texas, very similar coverage type packages that he would go through with the 49ers. So the fit is there 100%. Now my main question to you, and I think that this kind of is going to affect this pick. Are we going to do 4 rounds? Because if we have 4th round picks, I'm waiting on defensive tackle even longer.
Yeah. No, let's do 4 rounds. I think that'll give us a good idea of how the draft starts to look and the shape it takes depending on what happens in rounds 1
Okay.
and 2. Yeah.
So the question here is center versus safety. If we're going best player available, Andrew Makuba is going to be at the top of that list. Defensive tackle, I still think there's several defensive tackles. So again, the 4th round might be DT. But Andrew Makuba, why not? I will not draft another Texas player, so help me God. But they fit. So
my favorite Texas guy is still on the board. It's the linebacker, David Benga.
Benda.
Benda. Oh man, I was shocked when I watched him play. Like, how did Texas not win the national championship? They got a lot of talent. I was just saying that earlier about Ole Miss.
Quarterback.
They got a ridiculous defensive line. They got this quarterback people are talking about might be a 1st rounder. They weren't even in the tournament.
Well, the team that beat us is going to have more players drafted this year, Ohio State. But that was the national championship, Texas versus Ohio State, and that play call on the freaking 3-yard line. I love Sark, but that was some BS Kyle Shanahan goal line play calling when the season was on the line. But anyway,
You know, Kyle.
You're hurting me, Peacock. You're hurting me, man.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to bring that up. I don't care that much about college football, too. It's minor league football for me. I'm just looking at it as how does it affect the NFL, the NFL draft? That's all it's about.
You don't have a team? You ain't got one team you pull for?
I do not care. I went to San Francisco State. They didn't even have a football program. Like, I do not care.
There you go.
Yeah. No rooting interest. My Saturdays are family day. I watch prospects in January, February, March, April. I don't watch college football on Saturdays.
See, I used to be a bigger Texas fan than a Niners fan. Growing up in Texas and coaching, we got free tickets to all the Texas games, so we could go anytime we wanted to. But whenever I started doing the Niners show and I had to, start doing all the traveling to the road trips, I had to promise the wife, like, look, no more Saturdays. Like, Saturdays, I'm not going to be glued to the TV watching college football. That was the compromise I made. It still hurts sometimes, but the wife wins.
We going Makuba?
Makuba. We're going Makuba.
There it is. Like, you could. Oh, there went Wilson. Very last pick of round 3, 2 picks later. But there's going to be a defensive tackle on the board. It's not going to be a little run on defense tackles. So Deion Walker went 108 to the Bills. CJ West hurts a little, went 105 to the Patriots. As I mentioned, Jared Wilson went 101. But you know what? That might have been your last shot to get that guy who could be a potential starting safety for you at free safety. So I don't hate the move there. And there's still going to be some defensive tackles. You just want to go straight to see who's there.
Yes, I do. I don't care what else is there. It is defense. And I would like to go earlier. Like, don't get me wrong. And if you could swap some of these out, and we'll see on the next one, there's still so many studs. Jamari Caldwell, huge, moves so well. JJ Pegues, great.
Yep.
Simeon Barrow Jr.
This is why you wait. I love both these guys. And they might be, interesting players and maybe not perfect prospects, but the way Jamari Caldwell moves at his size, play a little one technique, and might have a little more juice in him than that. You get that at pick 112, sign me up, man.
Yeah, that's where I'm going, because I see a couple. Simeon Barrow Jr. is probably one of my favorite late round guys. That is that perfect 3-tech that the 49ers love, and I think he's going to fall. So Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle here, and probably going to go defensive tackle on the next pick. And I would just be very, very happy with that. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah,
Ty Robinson, Cameron Jackson.
Into day 3. Absolutely. All right. Jamari Caldwell?
Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle. He's going to play more of the plugger role for the 49ers, that bigger guy, which it's kind of weird. I think the 2 best defensive tackles we have, Malik Collins and Evan Anderson, are that role. We don't have that small 3-tech, but right here is just best player available, Jamari Caldwell.
Yep.
Now, hopefully one of these guys fall. If Simeon Barrow's there, I don't need to look at another position. Will he fall that far? I think 4th round is kind of where he's going to go. But he is, another one of those guys that's probably going to be a gold helmet type later in this draft, Simeon Barrow, because what do Niners like? Versatility, experience, no off-field stuff. Like, he is that to a T. So did he fall? That is the question.
Do you start to consider a backup quarterback at this area of the draft, late 4th round?
Will Howard, yes. And my philosophy is, if you don't have a top 5 quarterback, you are constantly throwing darts to get one. Well, what is a typical top 5 quarterback? I'm talking height, weight, speed, arm strength, those things. Brock Purdy's not that. Doesn't mean he can't be a top 5 quarterback producer. But if I'm taking chances on quarterbacks in the draft, I want height, weight, speed, rocket arm type mobile quarterbacks. I'm not taking Quinn Ewers. I'm not taking, the smaller whatever quarter. I want Will Howard. That's it. I wouldn't take him here, but I'd consider it.
Before you make your back-to-back picks here to end the 4th round, and in your first version of the mock draft here on our dueling mock drafts episode, I want to get to this super chat here from John. Appreciate you, John. He says, would you trade the number 11 pick for Jacksonville's third, and second? Is that a good trade on the draft chart? So you'd be dropping all the way out of the 1st round to the 2nd round and getting 2/3 in return. That's terrible value.
So if we add up those picks, okay, their 2nd rounder, 540, their 3rd rounder, 240. So we're right at about 800, plus their other 3rd rounder, 150. That's 950 for a 1250 pick. You would need more, probably a 2nd rounder next year. So 2 2s and 2 3s, but still.
If the Jags needed to get up from round 2 to pick 11, they would have to give up their future first, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for this draft, this would be the draft to do something crazy like that because, again, you get to the third round and I'm just like, gimme, 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 gimme. Like, all these guys are fits and you could just get so many quality starters. But
And
yeah, probably not.
I'm okay with moving back for the 49ers. And that would kind of be the scenario I would like more. And it would be, it'd be a little frustrating, I think, for fans where it's like, you don't get the payoff until future years. If someone wants to give you a future first round pick, especially a team that could potentially be bad, and who knows what happens at quarterback? Maybe these negotiations with Brock go south. And I always talk about the idea of fast Peyton Manning. If Arch Manning is fast Peyton Manning, you know what I mean? Like, you've seen him. I haven't seen very many snaps of his, but I was shocked how athletic he is. He's more
truth,
like
man.
His dad was a former receiver, not like his uncles. If he's legit, like, give me a bunch of picks and see what happens. Because if you somehow end up with, and that's what would really change. Like, if you want to talk about a reset, what about you get that? Like, what about literally you get fast Peyton Manning to be your quarterback of the franchise for the foreseeable future, right? So if a team wants to come a long way and give up a future first, I'd be listening.
Yes. Now, if Arch is your target, I don't think he comes out next year. I think he's going to stay. He's making more money there than he would here. I think he's up to.
I wonder if it would be a scenario where it's like, oh crap, the Niners got the first pick in the draft.
Right.
I will come out. Versus, oh, it's the Browns. Yeah, I'll stay in college one more year.
I think that's huge. We saw it with Eli. Will you put the cap on? Not putting the cap on, right? But yeah, if we get Arch, I'm in. And you control Brock. Even if you don't get a deal done, he sits out, you could franchise him. Then you franchise tag him. I wish they would have done it with Ayuk. That would have been, if you would have went the T. Higgins route with Ayuk, imagine where the 49ers would be right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, and I don't want to talk about the Brock stuff. Again, we mentioned that at the top. Is like, we're trying to avoid that. We're talking draft. We're talking how you build around this thing and build around Brock. But it would be ideal for the 49ers just to play this one out one more year because, if they start selling off pieces too, talking about this reset, it's not like the team's going to be better. And if you go 6-11 again, I mean, you might have coach and GM on a hot seat. Would you really want to give your quarterback a long-term contract if you have back-to-back years where, you're not a playoff team? And so ideally, you would get another look at this whole thing in this transitional year and really evaluate more about what you are before you drop that massive, huge contract on a quarterback. So ideally, that's the way you would want to play it anyway, is let it play out through and, utilize the franchise tag or whatever you need to with Brock Purdy, even if it ends up costing you more money because you really have to throw down more cash because he's that good. That's okay too. I don't mind paying a great quarterback.
And if you look at Washington and the Cowboys, those are probably the last two that we saw with Kirk Cousins and Dak, where you franchise. I don't think anybody lost in that deal. Cowboys probably should have ponied up the money earlier. But even Washington, with the terrible coach and GM and all the whatever that was going on, they got what they got out of Kirk Cousins and then got a third round comp pick. Not terrible. They got, 5 solid years of quarterback play. So yeah, I'm not in a rush to do any of that. So take that for what you will. Now let's get back to it. We got to wrap this one up if we're going to do another
Chapman,
one.
On the clock here, back-to-back picks to end round 4, and then we'll get to the dueling mock draft version number 2. It started with the offensive tackle in this one. Kelvin Banks Jr., then Landon Jackson, big defensive end in round 2. Harold Fannin and Andrew Makuba, tight end and safety in round 3. You got Jamari Caldwell, big defensive tackle to start round 4. 2 more fourth-round picks here at 138.
I love this draft.
I think this is a great draft, and this is the argument for going tackle in round 1.
Man, all right. Are there any defensive tackles left? I'm not walking out of here with just one defensive tackle. We might have to reach a little bit, but
go to.
I don't care.
Let's see who's out there. Interior defensive line. Simeon Barrow's there, and I think you said I don't want to quote you. I don't want to throw it back in your face. You said if Simeon Barrow's still there, you don't have to look at anything else, John.
Yeah, he's the pick here. He is a perfect 49ers fit. That Maurice Hurst type role that we always have, that 3-tech slasher. He's perfect.
So you got the 330-pound defensive tackle, the 1-tech, and then you get the 3-tech in Simeon Barrow, a little more penetrator for the San Francisco 49ers. So a little versatility with the defensive lineman, doubling up on the D tackles since you didn't get one early, and utilizing the depth of this draft class. And I can't argue with that strategy at all. Simeon Barrow out of Miami at pick 138. And now you got pick 139, and everybody else except for Barrow still on the board for you here. What kind of position you on with that?
I kind of want to see what falls.
John, don't try to sell me on Quinn Ewers because that one's not going to happen for me. Okay,
I'm not. Oh,
okay,
trust
good.
me, I am not selling you on that dude at all. Good leadership and a great locker room, great teammate, but no, absolutely not. Khalil Mullins, I think he fits, but it's too early. Pat Bryant, we don't have a wide receiver. He's a true X guy. If you need an X guy,
he didn't run well. I think he ran 4.6 or something like that at the combine, which is good and bad because I think he's going to be around later. He's one of my favorite day 3 guys. I like Pat Bryant a lot, and I'm kind of surprised.
Do you see him as an X, or do you see him as like, no, you got to move him inside?
He's not fast, but I think he's fine outside. I mean, he's quicker than Juwan Jennings is, and he kind of could replace that idea. He's good getting the ball down the field. I love the way he gets open in the intermediate level of the field. Like, he doesn't drop footballs. Like, he's just a good football player, and he's got a little bit of size to him, and he will block you too. So
yeah.
If you want a future Juwan Jennings and not pay Juwan Jennings, maybe gives you a little more outside versatility than Juwan Jennings does as a bigger slot, even though he could probably do some of those things as well. Oh, yeah, I love me some Pat Bryant. I'm just kind of looking at the combine just to double check. 6'2 and a quarter, 204. I think he actually played a little bigger, probably got down to run good and still didn't run good. Ran a 4.61, which is not ideal. 37.5-inch vertical, though. Like, I like the way he gets the ball down the field. I like the way he tracks the football. So even though he's not fast, he's still able to be a downfield threat, which I like.
And the contested catches, which he's great at, but that just means you don't get separations. You take that for whatever you want. All right, let's keep scrolling down. Let's see what else is there. This is, I think, where PFF gets a little. Kobe Hudson, I like him more. I think he's more of a Niners fit. The UCF guy, I think he is a perfect type guy. Let's see. Quincy Riley.
Kylie Williams has some speed, and I know a lot of people like his tape. He's named Kyle Williams, though, is his biggest negative, I think.
It was the number one indicator that Ronnie Bell wasn't going to work out whenever he picked that jersey number. You had options, bro. You cannot wear that number, and like the PTSD is just triggered. Anyway, take that for what. Quincy Riley, cornerback, Louisville, another guy that, you know, I think the 49ers really, really like and kind of fits. They met with him at the combine. 5'11", 194. That's like exactly the prototype that they love at DBs. Ran a 4.4. So if you want that kind of corner, you know, with a lot of experience, he's played 2,700 snaps. Like, this guy has played some ball at the corner position. So he might be the top of my list right now. Let's keep scrolling down. I just want to make sure I'm not missing something crazy. Jackson Haas. We don't have a tight end. You went
Harold Fanon. Round 3.
Oh, yeah, we did. So never mind. Not going there. I'm just, man, right now I'm leaning. Let's keep scrolling down. The center, Seth McLaughlin, I think is a little too early. Man, I'm not really seeing anybody that I'm in love with to kind of complement outside of, man, Denny Stutzman, good. Running back, Marcus Yarns, perfect fit. I think I'm going to go Quincy Riley. I think it matches need. I think it matches perfect 49ers fit. They love the guys with the experience, and he just kind of does everything. Pass breakups, you know, I like him a lot. Wish he was a better tackler, but we're at the end of the 3rd round. So overall, I like this haul. I'm not upset.
I like it as well.